All right, let's dive right in. We all think we know melatonin, right? You know, it's that little hormone that helps you sleep. But what if it's way, way more than that? Today, we're going to explore a fascinating text that completely reframes melatonin, not as some simple sedative, but as a kind of sacred messenger, a chemical key that can unlock some seriously profound spiritual insight.
And boom, right out of the gate you can tell this is not your typical biology lesson. The source material is asking us to see this nightly process not as just, a bunch of molecules moving around, but as this grand internal ritual, a cosmic event that's literally happening inside your head every single night. Now here's the idea that just flips everything on its head. We're taught to think of darkness as an absence, right? Something that hides things. But this text, it argues the exact opposite. It says that true absolute darkness is actually a tool. It's the only environment where a deeper inner light can finally be seen. Okay, so let's get into the first part, the sun in your skull. The text uses this really powerful metaphor to explain our internal clock and why our modern world, with all its light, poses such a huge challenge to it.
So you see this term here, the keeper. It's what the source calls the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. It's this tiny little bundle of neurons that is, for all intents and purposes, your body's master clock. You can think of it like the conductor of your entire internal orchestra. And its voice, the signal it sends out to everyone, well, that's melatonin.
And this slide just lays out the stakes perfectly. On the left, you've got a disrupted cycle. You're flooded with stress hormones, clarity is impossible, you're just drowned in noise. But on the right, when your cycle is aligned, the brain becomes a still mirror. And I love that phrasing. Insight isn't something you have to go out and get, it's something that's just no longer obstructed once all the static is gone.
So let's zoom in on the hero of this story, melatonin. We're going to look at it not just as some molecule, but as the actual messenger, the one carrying out the sacred will of the keeper.
The source describes this nightly process as this incredibly precise sequence of events. The moment the last photon of light vanishes from your eyes, your master clock, the SCN, it just goes quiet. And that silence is the signal. It tells the pineal gland to open its gate, and then melatonin floods your entire system. Like, and I'm quoting the text here, sacred oil.
And just look at what this sacred oil does. I mean, it's described as this ferocious antioxidant. It allows your mitochondria, your cellular power plants, to finally lower their shields and go into this deep repair mode. It kicks off autophagy, which is your body's self-cleaning process, devouring damaged cells, these hungry ghosts of junk proteins, and basically wiping the whole cellular slate clean before the sun comes up.
So here's the crucial point. The text is insistent that we've completely misunderstood what melatonin is for. It's not a sleeping pill. Its real job, its true function, is to be a cosmic signal cleaner. It's designed to remove all the biological and neurological static so that a much deeper signal, call it the soul, the witness, whatever you want, can finally be heard. And this brings us to a really cool part, and it's kind of the core idea of the text, ancient rhythms, modern science. The whole idea is that ancient spiritual traditions and modern chronobiology, which is just the science of our body clocks, they're not two different things. They're actually just two different languages describing the exact same process. Now that is a pretty bold claim. The source is suggesting that ancient meditative practices, things like the Buddhist watches of the night, they weren't just some poetic metaphor. Nope, they were precise, repeatable, chronobiological instructions for hacking your own consciousness by using your body's natural rhythms. Instructions that science is only just now starting to prove are real.
And check this out. This slide is basically the Rosetta Stone for this whole idea. It offers a direct translation. That mythical Vedic elixir called Soma, or the Tibetan nectar of clear light, according to this text, that's melatonin. The watches of the night, those are just instructions for working with your circadian rhythm. It's a pretty mind-blowing way to recontextualize all this ancient wisdom.
The text even elevates the pineal gland itself. It calls it an inner stupa, like a sacred monument built right inside your brain. And being faithful to true, absolute darkness is presented as the only way to keep it healthy, to basically resurrect it every single night. The flip side, light pollution and a bad lifestyle lead to its calcification, a literal hardening of the tissue, which the text calls its slow burial.
So, okay, how does all this connect to our health? Well, this next section makes the argument that the very same biological processes that create a long, healthy life are the exact same pathways that lead to enlightenment.
And here we go again, seeing those two languages side by side. Modern scientists who study longevity, they talk about hormesis. It's this idea that a little bit of good stress, like from exercise or fasting, actually signals your cells to repair themselves and get stronger. Well, the text we're exploring calls this same deep cellular repair process purification. One's a scientific term, the other's spiritual, but they're pointing to the exact same act of renewal.
And this, right here, this is the ultimate statement from the source. It's claiming there's literally no difference between the cellular practice of health and the spiritual practice of awakening. Repairing your mitochondria is a form of meditation. Aligning with your circadian rhythm is a spiritual discipline. There's no separation.
All right, so let's move from all this theory to actual practice. The text doesn't just talk a good game. It provides a specific, actionable protocol, and it calls it a weapon for cutting through all the noise.
The rules here, they are strict, but they're crystal clear. Total darkness is non-negotiable. I mean, every little LED, every crack of light under the door has to be sealed. The practice starts at 9 p.m. sharp. After some specific breath work, the instruction is just to lie still and offer your mind completely. And that last one is crucial. If insight comes, don't grab it. Just let it carve you.
Now, at the heart of this ritual is a specific breathing technique, and you do it for 108 cycles. It's a 5-second inhale through the nose, a 7-second hold where you silently repeat, "Keeper, I am empty," and then an 8-second exhale. It's a very focused practice, and it's designed to get your mind and body ready for that period of deep stillness that comes next. And here's the philosophy behind the whole thing. The goal isn't to achieve something, or add a new skill, or have some kind of crazy vision. The entire point of the ritual, the darkness, the stillness, the breath, it's all just about removing the interference, both outside and inside, that's blocking you from hearing what's already there. And get this, the text even puts forward a biological match for a really profound spiritual state. Rigpa, it's a Tibetan term for the pure, aware, pristine nature of your mind. And it's directly equated with something we can measure, the quieting of the brain's default mode network, which is exactly what happens when melatonin peaks in a healthy, dark-adapted cycle.
And so we end where we began, with the question the text leaves us with. It's a challenge, really. It reframes our whole relationship with the night. It's not about being afraid of the dark. It's about recognizing its power as this fundamental, creative force that allows for clarity, for renewal, and for insight. So, the question is, will you remain faithful to it?